Hello, welcome to this special broadcast. With us right now is the Managing Director of the Mahindra Group and now the President of the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Anish Shah. Mr. Shah, thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV18 and congratulations for taking over as President.
Thank you, Vixit, for the good wishes, and it's great to be here with you today.
Let me ask you about your outlook for the economy. Currently, India is in a sweet spot. Home Minister Anish Shah, recently when he was speaking to investors, he said that India will become a $5 trillion economy by 2025. The Q2 GDP growth came in at about 7.6%. What, according to you, will be the key pillars of India's economic growth going forward?
So we do think that India is in a sweet spot. It's a great position to be right now. And we're seeing a much greater momentum that's building up. So I would actually venture to say that we will likely cross the 8% mark next year. Some of the key drivers are starting with the government capex and infrastructure that they've put in and the multiplier effect that is related to that. Private capex has lagged behind a little, but there are a number of sectors that have put in a lot more investment and are increasing capacity. We've been one of them at the Mahindra Group in doubling capacity in SUVs. And we see more private capex coming in as well. And it's really going to have to be around inclusive growth. And we'll talk more about what that means.
Right. When you are talking about an 8% growth rate next fiscal, an increase in private capex, are there particular sectors that you see which will fire on all cylinders and where we will see higher capacity generation and greater deployment of capex?
You see manufacturing leading that this time because there are two key trends. One is Indian manufacturers are starting to build world-class products and put in a lot more R&D. And that will translate to making in India, not just for India, but for the world. And the second is a trend that we've seen around global companies looking to diversify supply chains and thereby put in more capital in India. So manufacturing will be a key thrust of this economy going forward.
Right. Any estimate that you could share with us on the kind of increase in private capex that FICCI sees as an industry chamber?
At this point in time, we would look at a significant growth in terms of numbers. We're still waiting for some surveys to come in terms of what our companies or members are looking at putting in, and we shall share that as soon as that's done.
Right. I would also like to ask you, the vote on account is around the corner, then you have the full budget in July. Any expectations?
We've had two great budgets. Both were focused on economics and not on politics. And while there is a reality around politics, our hope is that the high expectations that have been delivered in the past two budgets are taken forward again in terms of focus on economics.
Right. If we were to drill it down to the basics, any particular sectors where you would like work on, any key reform measures which you would like to see?
We'd actually give the government a lot of credit for what they've done because they've really focused first on infrastructure and the multiplier effect I talked about earlier as compared to SOPs in various areas. The second is focused on creating manufacturing capacity in India with the PLI schemes. And we're starting to see a lot more capacity coming in as a result of that. And third is create an environment around being much easier to do business in. So it's a combination of these three things that has been very powerful. And those are the themes that we would hope continue going forward.
Right. Speaking about PLI schemes, we've seen investments coming in. Many companies will start investing because of PLI in different sectors. Would there be any particular industries, product lines, or areas where you feel new PLI schemes can be brought in?
I feel that we've got a good set of PLI schemes across sectors. And while we will keep looking for what makes sense, the key is it has to make sense for an economy. Right? And even as FICCI, we are conscious of the fact that it shouldn't be something that we ask only for our members. It should be something that's right for the economy as well. So our vision is to take thought leadership in working closely with the government and with our members to be able to create a much stronger economy. So at this stage, I'd say that we've got a good set of PLI schemes, and we'll continue looking and seeing whether something makes sense for the economy, in which case we will propose it.
Right. In your earlier remarks, you had spoken about Vixit Bharat, something that the government has been pushing for over the last few months. How is FICCI as an industry body, how would you as a leading industry veteran, be associated with this and contribute to this?
So first, we are thrilled to see this. This is an amazing ambition that's been laid out. It's very clear as well. In FICCI's annual general meeting held just last week, we had the Defense Minister, the External Affairs Minister, the Commerce Minister all come in along with a number of other dignitaries and talk about Vixit Bharat and talk about what the ambition was. And we're planning to go to a $30 trillion economy. And while we've talked about being $5 trillion by 25, this is $30 trillion by 2047, where per capita will be 8 times what it is today. And manufacturing will be at a much higher contribution of 25% as compared to 15% today, which means that manufacturing will have to grow 15 times in that time period. And therefore, it's going to have to take much more of a center stage from an economic standpoint as well. So that is great to see. In terms of how FICCI can contribute to it, our focus is going to be on inclusive growth. And that is a theme for my presidency for this year, along 4 pillars. First is Make in India, and that's not just Make in India for India, but it's also for the world. It will include ecosystems with mid-sized companies, MSMEs, because those ecosystems are essential for creating the manufacturing capacity that is required for India. A key part of that is being able to win in India as well. With the products we make, there should be a greater R&D spend. The product quality should be such that we can win across global majors and then take them to the rest of the world. The second key pillar is around women-led development. This is an area that is sorely needed and something that we would look at in terms of driving equality, not just from an economic standpoint, but also from a society standpoint. Labor participation in workforce today is 22%. And that's something that we feel needs to go to 45 to 50% by 2047 to be able to achieve the goals that we need for Vixit Bharat. The Prime Minister has talked about making 2 crore women lakpatis. Right? Again, an ambitious target, but one that we feel is eminently achievable and something that FICCI will help drive in terms of skill building and other things that are required to make that happen. So, women-led development is going to be a key plank for inclusive growth for us.
Right.
The third is around farm prosperity. And there has been an ambition to double farmer income. It will go beyond farmers. It's the ecosystem around the farm, all the way to food processing companies. And how does that ecosystem play a key role in contributing to the sustained growth that India will need to be able to get to 30 trillion? And the last is around sustainability. This is an area that the Western world had sort of taken as their own at one point in time, but India has come up as a leader. The targets that we have for renewable energy by 2030, we've clearly established leadership in energy transition. The myth that has often been here is that sustainability means more expense. And that's not correct, because we've done a number of projects over the last 15 years, and many of them actually accretive to the company. It started with the government pushing LED lights many years ago, and if you look at renewable energy today, that's actually cheaper than traditional energy. And we're putting in a captive plant for all our facilities around the country, which can be fed through the grid at a 30 to 40% lower cost. And therefore, we have the ability to drive sustainability. It's something that is the right thing to do as well, and something that will position India very well in the world. So these are the 4 key pillars of inclusive growth that we would drive: Make in India, women-led development, farm prosperity, and sustainability.
Right. You spoke about women-led development, greater women empowerment, greater participation of women in the workforce. Is there any vision on how to achieve that at an industry body level? Would you like FICCI to come up with a blueprint on mentoring women, make sure they have greater representation in the workplace and in boardrooms?
We're going to have to do a lot of things. And it starts with setting the right ambitions around it in terms of where we want to be. Then comes to what are the actions required for that. What are the best practices that we've seen across companies? And how can we then create the mentoring opportunities, the training opportunities to be able to make that happen? And a big part of that is skill development. And how do we encourage or how do we facilitate skill development across? And it's something that we feel that a lot more companies will come in and help us with. I again give the example of the Mahindra Group. We've set a target to have 1 million women get jobs every year. And it is a bold target, but there are a number of folks who've joined arms with us now and are helping us get to that target.
Right. Speaking about a recent report by S&P which said that India will be the fastest growing major economy over the next 3 years, but they also pointed out that India needs a strong logistics framework, upskilling and women participation, two issues that you've already mentioned. If there was anything lagging or left behind in this government's reform agenda, which you feel needs to be accelerated now, what would those areas be?
In terms of what's happening at center, we think all the key aspects are covered. Because that goes from infrastructure, both digital and physical, to creating the right environment for manufacturing, to focusing on women-led development. The area that we need more work on is getting all stakeholders on board. And that includes state governments. Because as we think about ease of doing business, we may have a one-window clearance at center, but there may be other clearances required in states. And how do we bring all stakeholders together to be able to create the environment where it's one India that makes it easy to do business and really facilitates the growth that India needs.
All right, on that note, we take a short break, but don't go anywhere. This conversation with Anish Shah, the new president of Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, continues when we return.
Embark on an exciting journey through corridors of creativity and entrepreneurship, where innovation meets excellence, as young entrepreneurs breathe life into ideas and present their concepts before an esteemed jury on OLL Presents Skill Titans, the next big idea, in association with CNBC TV18.